Hi, I'm Jason Khalipa, and welcome to the AMRAP Mentality podcast, a show where we interview interesting people about how they make the most out of every single minute. On today's episode is Camille Leblanc-Bazinet. Now, if you've been around CrossFit for any amount of time, you've probably heard that name come up. She's competed at the CrossFit Games 9 times as an individual, which is an amazing accomplishment on its own, but she also won the CrossFit Games in 2014. On top of that, what's really interesting for me is her entrepreneurial side. The fact that she's gone into different businesses, how she's built herself a brand, as well as getting her chemical engineering degree and marrying her husband now, Dave Lipson, where they do a lot of really cool things together. I love diving into her relationship, her business ideas, and obviously her mentality going into competition. I truly enjoyed this episode. We got to film it at Wodapalooza right before she competed, and I hope that you guys enjoyed as well. Before we dive into the episode, just want to let you know, if you haven't checked out our NC Fit app, which is available on the App Store and Android, give it a shot. Let us know what you think about it. As well as I have my new book, As Many Reps as Possible, available on Amazon now. Now, without any further conversation, let's dive right into it. All right, so Cammy, we are here in Miami in our beautiful booth, and we're at the Intercontinental Hotel, and you are competing at Wodapalooza on a team. I am here just to watch, and I'm so happy we're able to get together. We've known each other for so many years, competing in different competitions, CrossFit Games, and you're someone I really wanted to get on the show because what we're all about is this kind of like this AMRAP mentality, this mindset, and I'm looking at you and 9-time CrossFit Games competitor, high-level Olympic weightlifter as well. But while you were kind of coming up in the sport, you were also getting your degree in chemical engineering. And that's really intriguing to me. So I want to take us back to when you first got into CrossFit, when you first started competing in the CrossFit Games. At the time, were you also going to school? And how did you get into CrossFit?
Yeah, so my pretty much my first year that I started my chemical engineering degree was my first year like doing CrossFit. And I just got into CrossFit like I'm a little ADD just like you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're more than me though. But growing up I did gymnastic and then I did kind of every sport you can think of, and I just love to play. Like as an adult I can look back and be like I would wonder, like, as a kid, why did I always have to be in? And I just love to play. So I did every sport, ripped my hip flexor, quit gymnastic, kind of started, like, college was a little lost. And someone, like, challenged me to try CrossFit. And I was like, that's hard. I like it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And this was, so in high school, you were a gymnast?
Yeah.
And then you got injured, like your senior year in high school?
Yeah, I got injured like at 15.
And then you stopped doing gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout high school, did you play any additional sports?
All of them.
All of them? Whatever you could?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was really hard because I would be done with school and then like go to the, I don't know, like soccer practice with the school team. And then from there I would go straight to gymnastic.
Okay.
And thanks God I was good at school because I really don't remember much doing homework. Like I would just like sit down. You know how people go to school and they sit down and they kind of not really listen to the teacher or like. But for me, like, because I knew I didn't have time to do homework. Like when I was in school in my class, my time was dedicated to that.
Right.
So I would like sometimes do my homework as like the teacher was like in class doing the thing.
Right, because that's all the time you had.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're coming through high school and then you finish and you go to college, and so you got introduced to CrossFit, and then what year did you start competing in the CrossFit Games? That was 2010, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how was your experience in 2010? And at the same time, you were a full-time student, right?
Yeah.
So take me through that experience. What was it like competing in your first CrossFit Games? Back then, 2010, things were a lot different than they are today in 2019.
Yeah.
But tell me, what was that like, and what type of struggles did that kind of come with?
So, funny enough, when I started CrossFit, I saw just like I mean, just like you have this like AMRAP mentality, I like really adopted the like sort of CrossFit mentality towards my other goal in life. So for me, there's something when I started CrossFit that just clicked in my brain. And it was like, hey, when you do a 5 round of something, that third one and that fourth one is always so hard.
Right.
And it's like every time you can overcome that little challenge, you're like one step closer to just being a little tougher, a little better. So I started to do that with my school. So when I started CrossFit, I thought it was the best thing that could happen for my school. So in the morning, you know, when your alarm rang, it became like in your head, you're like, oh man, like, ugh, I have to get up. And you're like, oh, that's the same feeling I get when I'm at round 3 or 4. So you're like, no, you get up.
Right.
Like, and it became this, like, I would just apply that to everything. So I started to do, okay, I have to study 3 chapter, not allowed to stand up until it's done, start a clock and like get to it. And it made me so efficient. Like, so efficient where like other student would like, you know, they would meet up and then they would just lollygag for like 6 hours and I was like, I don't know. I have 2 hours and then I got to go train. And that just became my sort of ritual, my way to go. Everything became kind of for time with like, that's the other thing. No fluff in my life. There was no computer, no TV, no phone. And that's all I did.
That's all you did.
Train in school.
Train in school. So 2010, what place did you take in 2010? 9th. And then, so take me through that process. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you were still in school. Mm-hmm. So 4 years or so?
More.
5.
I graduated like a year and a half ago.
Okay. So, I mean, over your CrossFit Games career so far, then you've had a balance being in school. Mm-hmm. You've also became an entrepreneur, starting your own different businesses, which I want to dive into. Before we get into there, though, when it comes to competing, you performed really well, and you've been able to go 9 times consecutively, which is really impressive. But you've also won the CrossFit Games. And that was in 2014, right? Yeah. And then in 15, you got injured, right?
17.
Excuse me, I apologize. 2017, you got injured, right?
It's just too many years.
Yeah, too many years.
Yeah.
Now, as the CrossFit Games have progressed and you've had more pressure on you because of sponsors and external pressures, how have you learned to control that from back in the day in 2010, just being someone who's balancing school and getting in 9th, then all of a sudden being the champion in 2014, and I would argue at the height of the sport potentially,
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And then coming in at 15, 16, what was that like to balance that kind of weight on your shoulders?
You know what I thought was really hard when just real quick, going back to school thing, when I won in 2014, I was full-time student that summer. So the day after the CrossFit game, I flew home to take my finals, like just to give people an idea of, and like I was so messed up in my head because you're so tired.
Yeah.
That I showed up to go study for one of my tests that was later that day, and I entered the room that people were taking my test, and I left because I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I interrupted a test.
Yeah.
And it was my test because that was the time.
So what did you end up doing?
So my teacher was running to try to find me. No, they didn't.
Oh, so what'd you do?
So I went to study somewhere else, and I opened the computer, and I was like, wait a second. And then I like realized, and I just started to sweat, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like an hour late for my test. And I was like shaking, and it was so bad.
But then did you get back and finish it?
Yeah. So I got in the class, and they're like, you have 2 hours left.
Right.
And I was like, damn it.
And that was the day after the CrossFit Games. You flew back to Canada.
Yeah. And I think like the beauty of my school, like after I won, the beauty of having other things in your life is that your identity is not attached to one thing.
Right.
Like I go back in chemical engineering. No one cares. you're late for your test, you're late for your test. Like
Right.
there's no like special treatment. And that was amazing for me.
So-
Amazing.
So here you are, you win the CrossFit Games, you get all
Yeah.
this praise, you win a bunch of money, whatever happens, and then you get to school and people could care less.
So that's the thing that was like, because you were telling like with the pressure and things like that. So that's what was so beautiful for me, is having other things that people like you also can fail there, and people keeps you also accountable there, and you're not better or worse than anyone else. You're just a one person. Because after I won, a lot of people, they all want like a piece of the pie, and you're being pulled left and right. And it's like, no matter what you do, you can't win. No matter what you do, you're like, oh, she's a, bitch because she said no here. Or she thinks she's better. She thinks she's that. And to be honest, like back then, I was just like trying to keep my head above water and get my school done. So that was really hard. It's like everyone just assume you've changed. Because maybe they would change if that happened to them. But I didn't feel like I've changed.
Right.
So it was so weird. And then I've changed because I was like, gosh, it's like there's so many people always doing things around you that you're like, just want to work. Like, I just want to work and be a nice person. And I'm being pulled left and right. And that was rough.
Yeah, I imagine. So you keep your head down, you're working all throughout these years, all the while you met your now husband, Dave, who's Thunder Bro.
You were there.
Of course, I was there.
You were like
there.
literally there, almost
I was
holding your
literally
hands,
there. And so we were at a Again Faster versus Rogue Fitness. This is years ago in Lake Tahoe.
Still the best event of all time.
A great event.
If you guys at home like don't know what to do, go watch that. It's like the most entertaining.
Yeah, it's old school.
Yeah.
And the sparks were starting between Dave and Camille, and you guys ended up together. And so tell me, how is that relationship? How have you been able to, because you guys are kind of both in the same industry, right?
Yeah.
There's no kind of about it. You are in the same industry. Yeah. You guys so basically work together, live together, play together. How has that relationship kind of developed over the years, from where it started out at the Again Faster Rogue Throwdown to where it is today? I mean, and how has that played into how has he been supportive of your competition, and where does that go?
I mean, for a starter, we went from, I don't think he could really understand me at all to like, now we have real conversation.
Right.
Like,
before you were speaking French to him.
Yeah. I would yell at him in French before, and now I can yell at him in English. So that's a big change.
Right.
And now we understand what I'm saying. I think, and I feel like you and Ashley are very much like this. I think where I feel like we're very successful is that we've never seen each other as a competition to the other, but we're partners.
Right.
And we're partners in like this life. Like Dave is my number one teammate, and I'm his number one teammate, and that has never changed. And we've never been jealous of each other. Sometimes people ask like Dave, they're like, how does that feel that, your wife is so famous? And he's like, we both would never understand that. And it would be, how is it supposed to feel? Like we're happy.
Right.
Like I'm happy she's succeeding, and I'm happy to be part of it. And that's how I feel with him. So I'm happy he's succeeding. I'm happy to be part of it. And I think our relationship over the year just, I don't know, we keep changing because we keep challenging each other. We like call each other on our BS all the time.
Really?
Like there's no room for it. Like zero. We like always make up like new rules. I think I'm the one who make up the rules. Like most of the time.
Give me a rule. What's a rule?
So like rules will be things like you're not allowed to whine about something if you're not bringing up like a solution.
Okay.
So like that would be a rule, because how sometimes people just like to gossip and just start on a rant about something.
Right.
So if I see like Dave or see me start, because sometimes you feel like that's gonna make you feel better.
Right. You're venting about something.
It never does.
Right.
Like it's it's a waste, like this huge negative space that you just created, and when you're done, you're like, ugh, like,
right.
Who am I? Like that's yucky. Like it's just so. for example, with like the change with the CrossFit Games, this is an example. If I would just start with Dave being like, "Oh my God, this is stupid," blah 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 blah.
Right.
Dave would be like, "All right, like, what are you gonna do about it?"
Right.
And then if I don't come up with an answer, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Okay. So
we
unless
do
there's
things
something that's
like that.
actionable in your control,
Yeah.
basically the conversation is pointless. That's really interesting. I think something you brought up that I'm really intrigued on is this idea that both of you guys are partners and you can have mutual success. And I really believe that as well. And I think that that's something that's interesting because your husband has started a program called Thunder Bro, which he just embodies his personality. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But what when you and I talk, it's like, oh yeah, Dave's killing it. He's crushing the game. It's not like, oh yeah, he has a program. It's like, no. You're genuinely
so proud of
enthusiastic
him.
for what he's doing. And I think that's really special. And I think that's something that people could learn from is that spouses in particular, they should always be each person's highest advocate, because if it's ever not that, then it becomes like there's resentment that builds up, right?
Yes.
So that's really an interesting perspective that you guys have been able to incorporate into your relationship over all these years.
Yeah. I recently got mad at Dave because he tried to compare like how much we've made on one day, like how much he did and how much I did.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even let him just start it. Like I could tell he was going there, like pull out his phone and it's like, "Hey Cam," and I was like, "No."
Yeah.
And he got
right, because it's not like a you and a me. It's like, hey, this is our family's bringing in this. Our family's doing this. That's a really powerful. It's like you're on a team, right?
Yeah.
Just like you're about to compete at Wadapalooza. So fast tracking a little bit and kind of shifting gears. You go through and you win in 2014. Talk to me through the process in 15, 16, and then finally in 17. I remember being in Madison and watching your injury occur, your shoulder. Yeah. And I remember at the time just thinking to myself, man, Cammie's going to have a long road because this is towards you've been in the career for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was nervous. I was like, man, I don't know if 18 is going to happen for her.
Yeah.
Right. And sure enough, 18 did.
Yeah.
Right. And so talk to me through that process of you're at the highest of the sport. You go through 15, 16, then you get hurt. And then how'd you overcome and get back at least to the games in 18? Yeah. What was that like mentally?
So, I think I was at that point old enough and mature enough to take on the challenge and not let it destroy me.
Okay.
Because you've been there too for a really long time in CrossFit, but at a point everyone make it your identity, and then you have to go through this thing that you're like, wait a second, that's not my identity. And then you kind of remove yourself from it. You go back to why you're doing it, why you love this so much. And then you can kind of go back in with this, this new intention and just having fun and being you. And that's kind of where I was at in 2017. I was just so all I wanted for myself was to go in and do my best. And I didn't care where I finished.
In 17 when you got hurt.
And I was fit, because of that, because of this true, pure passion of just pushing my limit all year, and which also most likely why I hurt myself, because I was going so hard that year.
So you were going harder that year than in years past because what you found, you went back to the original reason why you started in 2010. And so what was that? Because in 2010, from what I'm hearing, and just from what I'm gathering from this conversation, is that there's no fluff in Camille's life.
No, really not.
If we're not moving forward, if we're not improving, if you're not benefiting something in my life, then we don't have time for it.
No.
So in 2010, you got inspired by CrossFit, but how did that change then in 2017? And then how did you reflect back on that original why?
I think the things that have changed is that people at a point just, everyone likes to tell you what to do. And I think in 2017, I realized that I was going to be different, and that was going to be it. And my different makes me happy. So I'm not going to lower my standard for myself because it might make other people uncomfortable because they don't understand why I do this.
So you were just going to be you.
Exactly.
And so what type of things changed when you started being you versus being the person that people wanted you to be?
It was just very easy to say no.
No, and these were outside events. These were people coming in.
No to things I didn't want it to be part of. I didn't care how much you would pay me to do it. There's nothing about money or status, or I was just doing what I believe was the best thing.
For you.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so now you go into the games, you're feeling great, but then you suffer this injury.
Yeah.
And so what was that like at that moment? And then in months after, what was that process like?
So the thing is that the injury was so big that it wasn't a choice.
Right.
And that was great.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're like...
It's not like, well, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like, no, my shoulder's completely ripped out.
Right.
Like, I recently talked with my surgeon, and it was like, that was one of the biggest shoulder surgery, like, that was nasty. And it was like, oh, okay. And he was like, I can't believe you competed, like, that you were able to compete, you know, a year from that.
Right.
Yeah, so that just the same focus I put on my CrossFit, on my school, that became my purpose with my shoulder.
For rehabbing.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it attacked my shoulder rehab. It became like I sat down, I wrote a plan, I found out the people that were going to help me, and we just came up with the solution, because no time to whine, right?
Yeah.
Come up with solution. And that was exactly what we did. Wow. I scheduled my shoulder surgery the next day that I heard it at the game. So
and then how many months was that process?
I felt bad for myself. I was like, let's fix this.
Right.
Like right now. So the next day I was scheduling my surgery. And then during the CrossFit game, me and Dave would go to the gym in the morning, and I would try to rehab my shoulder for like a couple hours, like starting then. So I would go in my surgery with the strongest shoulder, because that way you just try to, you know, I try to go in my surgery as fit as possible.
Okay. And so how many months did it take you to rehab your surgery or rehab your shoulder?
About 6.
And then you started training for the games again, and then you ended up qualifying.
Yeah.
And how did you do in 2018?
I got 13th.
And which is a great placing in the world. I mean, phenomenal, especially where the sport has grown. I mean, you know what's incredible is that in 2010, you took 9th, and here you are in 2018, you took 13th. And that's a long span. And the competition went from, you know, probably in 2010, there was probably about, I don't know, maybe 50,000 competitors to, you know, 300,000-400,000 competitors. And you've been able to stay relevant. And so I want to touch base on the entrepreneurship side of you, because I think another area where maybe some people don't realize is that you have this grit, you have this determination, you have this ability to release the fluff, but also you're driven to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And where do you think that drive comes from? Because I know you've gotten involved in different businesses. You have your own online programming. Where does the drive to become an entrepreneur come from? Is that from your parents or?
No, because I mean, I guess my brother is an entrepreneur too, but like the same way I was saying, we always come up with solution. I think that's what it is, because I'm in this sport and I see, you know, things happening. I see how hard it is to reach some people with fitness, and I've just want to help, like, truly. That's why I went in chemical engineering. That's why, like, most of the decision I've done in my life is I really want to contribute to our community and our planet.
Okay.
So I went in chemical engineering, and I got specialized in air, water treatment, and recycling process. And,
yeah. When are you going to start using that?
Well, so hopefully you'll be part of charity with all my business stuff.
Okay.
But then I started CrossFit, and I saw how much it helped, like, people around me. And I'm like, if you're, you know, healthier and fitter, you're better at your work. You're better for the community too. So now I can reach even more people. So that's always been in the back of my head. But now you're here, and all I see is like a lot of company trying to come in just to make money. And I want to come in and just find a way to reach the people that are harder to reach, for them to start doing fitness and do like product that like the athlete can, you know, hopefully make a living out of that. So I think that's how my entrepreneur side started, is I just wanted to
find a solution.
Yeah, find a solution and do the things the way I want things to be done.
Okay.
Like not cutting any corner, like listening to feedback a lot. Like I hear a lot of people like, we would like this and that. And I'm like, yeah, me too. So I started to do kind of things for myself. Like I would like this. I hear people would like this.
So
Let's do it.
And so how has that worked out? And then I'm going to shift back to fitness, but while we're on the subject, how has that worked out in business for you? I know that you have successful programs. You and your husband both have online programs, which is great. But, have all the business endeavors been successful, or have you had to recognize that maybe at times some of these deals weren't the right deals? What have you learned? What's a big takeaway in business that you've learned? Because you say that there's a lot of people that come at you and they want to be a part of your brand and things like that. What have you had to learn to say no to that maybe you should have said no to? Or what's a takeaway that someone listening can maybe hear?
I think a big thing is just follow your guts. Like literally 100% of the time I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. I was right. Always. Like just that, you're like, like literally walk away no matter how much they're giving you, because if you feel like that, it will come back and bite you.
Yeah, it's that's such an
little like.
I agree with you. If there's like this little bit of awkwardness or whatever discomfort before the deal's signed, I mean, that stuff doesn't go away.
No.
And so have you seen that in your personal business ventures? So every time you kind of have this like, then all of a sudden you'd find it to become maybe a negative?
So Dave, my husband, just loved to give the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
And I really think like I have a sixth sense for like sensing people and especially BS. Like I'm really good.
Yeah.
I'm really good at figuring out like when BS is out there. And many, many times like Dave pushed me to be like, no, just see the bright side. And I was like, I'm telling you, I feel this. I was right every time. So now that's the place that now he comes to me and is like, what do you think? I'm like, don't do it.
Right. So listen to your gut more in the business space, because you got into a few different things and
also don't like, I think when people start project and things, if it doesn't work at first, like sometimes they just give up right away.
Right.
And maybe that first thing isn't the right thing, but I think it's being open to feedback and really listen to like how whatever you're doing is like affecting people. So you might end up with a product that is completely different, but that product might be the one that's really helping people. Like I think people struggle to like let go of things.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you might have worked really hard on that, but also maybe you should have had that tested before you worked so hard on that.
Right.
Like just like throw things out there, like see what's helping, get the feedback. I feel like that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, just because you think it's a good idea, the market needs to also agree with you, and you need to be open to change is what I hear.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, entrepreneur, wife, chemical engineer. I love it. Talk to me about at the games. I've seen you do some very impressive stuff, and I've also seen you have some failure.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk about both because I think that's only fair.
Yeah.
When you're on one and you're ready to rock and you're going out to an event, what's going through Camille's mind pre, during, and post an event?
Yeah.
What's going on in your head? What are you telling yourself?
So I do a lot of of work before like the whole week before the game. I'm doing work to like just get my head ready. So I'll do, and I think this one is one of my favorite things to do, but I'll write myself a letter about how I'm going to feel during the game. Like, hey, Cam, you're going to start doubting yourself there. Just remember how hard you work. Remember where you're from, like all the sacrifice you've done. So I like kind of write the letter for myself, knowing how I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
So now when I'm at the game and I start to feel like that, you just like pull out the letter and like, oh, yeah, you're right here.
So
you silly you. And then you like come back and you're like, oh, it's all good. Like,
wow. So like a week before the games, you'll go ahead and write this letter to yourself on like, what is it? Just like on a notebook?
Yeah, I have to write it down because I feel like when you write it down, it's very personal.
Yeah.
And like you can like hide it because like there's really like really personal things in there.
Right. And so then when do you know it's the right time to open it up at the games? When you're feeling down, or just like, hey, on Saturday, I'm going to open this?
No, when I'm like, because the fact that you write those things down, now when you're at the game, sometimes you don't have to open it because that thought will creep up and you're like, oh yeah, I wrote that one down. You're like, okay. And like, because when I write, whatever is creeping up that is bad, I also tell myself what to do about it. I'm like, okay, yeah. Now I'm like doubting myself. I'm being negative. Okay, so I have to remember that. But sometimes if it goes like really south, then I'll open the letter and be like,
Okay. I love that. And so
yeah.
what else do you do? I mean, the letter is something I've never heard before. I think that's really,
like
really cool.
one of the things.
Yeah. What else do you do like right before 3, 2, 1, go?
I always tell myself, wait, how do I say it?
Is it in French?
No. It's in the, well, sometime it is. Often when I'm on the line before the 3, 2, 1 go, I'll just tell myself something like share your happiness with everyone.
Share your happiness with everyone.
Yeah, because
so what does that mean to you?
Because I'm like, I'm just happy to be there. And it's just so cool to be able to share that with like so many people. So it's almost in my head. I'm like, with the crowd, I'm like, we're all doing this. Like we're all sharing this moment together. And that like always makes me feel like very uplifted. Like this is going to be great. Like we're all doing this together here and now. So it's not like I have to do this. Oh my God, how this? Because I don't know I have enough experience that, shit might hit the fan like anytime. So I mean, if it's a very good event for me, like that happened to me in the past. So I'm like, let's just go out there, me, you, and let's just have fun.
Share this moment, share this happiness. Wow, it's really cool. That's an interesting perspective. I've never heard that before.
Mm-hmm. I did it one time and it clicked, and then I was like, oh, because I love to play. Like, I think a lot of this thing goes back to having like a really big awareness of who you are. What are your value? Like, what spark you? So I worked a lot on that stuff. Like, I work on all of that to like know exactly who I am. So once I'm on the field, because I know who I am, and like some of my biggest value are like, kindness and honesty and hard work and things like that. So I have to go with that. I can't just all of a sudden be like selfish and introverted and, like angry.
Right.
So you have to go with what like makes you feel alive.
So how'd you learn that? Because I mean, that's a very interesting skill set to know who you are deeply inside.
Mm-hmm.
And, also onto your Olympic lifting career, which, you're highly successful in there. I mean, arguably you could qualify potentially for the Olympics in the future because of your numbers, right? But when you get onto that platform and you have 3 lifts of a clean jerk, 3 lifts of a snatch, or even at the CrossFit Games when you have something similar, there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah.
Now, how have you been able to develop this internal mindset? How have you been able to have this innate self-awareness? Have you gone and seen specialists?
Yes.
Have you...
Yes.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, so I have a mental coach that helped me. I mean, part of it, before I had a mental coach, a lot of it was just failing. The harder you fail, the faster you grow. Because also, I feel like I've always had this mentality of like, when you're faced with a really big obstacle, there's only 2 ways. You figure it out or you quit.
Right.
And for me, quitting was never the option. So literally growing up as far as I can remember, every time I would hit a challenge, I would be, okay, let's do it. Just always, it's never been like, meh, it's too hard for me. Like, and same maybe if it was, I was going to figure it out then and grow into that person that was strong enough that this wasn't too hard for them anymore. And I think that failing is just a catalyst for that.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for all the failure I had.
Yeah.
Because it made me grow so fast.
And so going way back, you have a twin sister, and growing up, were you guys extremely competitive against each other? I mean, how is that dynamic?
She wasn't. I think like she didn't like I wouldn't say confrontation, but she would shy away from things like that. And for me, I would like dive headfirst in.
So your personalities were a little bit different.
Yeah.
So ever since you were a kid, you're always trying to have fun, playing sports,
Yeah.
doing these things, and then that transcended now into everything else you're
Yeah.
doing. Wow.
I've always been very competitive, but I feel like when you say competitive, people see this person like crying because they lose or things like that. That was never me. I just loved hard things. So like if I showed up, I don't know, to the track with you and we start running, I'll like literally start laughing if we're like head to head, and I'm like laughing because I'm like, this is so fun because we're like pushing each other so hard.
Right.
But I don't feel like, oh, don't let him beat you. Like if Jason's ahead of you, like you're less or whatever. To me, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, you steer
I
into
love
adversity.
that.
You steer into challenges versus steering away. That's really it's really fascinating to me. And so as the games have gone on, as life has prevailed, what is Camille? What are yours? What are Dave's goals now moving forward? I mean, here we are. You've been in the sport a decade. You got a degree in chemical engineering. You've created these different business platforms. You have great sponsorships. What is the next? What's happening for Camille this year? What's on your horizon? What are things that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so right now, me and Dave were working really hard, like on building our business, but not really any business. What I'm like creating right now, this program that is more like for club fitness, meet like aesthetic, kind of pairing functional fitness with aesthetic like component to it.
Yep.
Because I want to do something that is just manageable for people. Some things that will like give you a result, but also make you look the way you want to look. That's not going to beat you up, and just like create something that is sustainable. Because I think that's what is kind of missing right now. Is just everyone need to have their fancy thing that is like all different. Like you see it in nutrition a lot, like be keto, vegan, vegetarian, carnivore. Like there's a new thing every day.
Right, and it gets confusing.
It gets so confusing that you're like, well, I don't know what to do.
I've been on keto now since January 1st.
Yeah,
100%.
And the other thing that when I hurt my shoulder, it was quite a blessing because I started to go to like club fitness gym, so I could isolate my body and. Like Dave can testify from this. The first day I went in, like I almost cried because I felt so sad to see such a humongous amount of people there that no one knew what to do.
Right.
And there's no help.
Right.
And they are paying to be there, and they like walk on the treadmill, do some leg extension, looking at their phone. And I was like, damn, like they came all the way here.
Yep.
And they want to be fit. They want to feel, successful. And it's just, they have no
guidance,
pathway.
direction.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's when this project that I'm doing right now came from. So I like started to sit down and, see how I can give them like hopefully what they want. And I'm sure it's going to keep changing as I learn more and more and more all the time. But also, like, I think CrossFit is wonderful, and I always be grateful that, I started there and I have all the opportunity that I have now from them. But I understand that it's hard to drive to a gym, like give a specific time on a schedule, give this whole hours to someone, and then like drive back home. And then you it's like this time between your work and home.
Yeah. That
you didn't see your kids because maybe you had to wait longer because you had to, enter as this exact time. And I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. So you're saying you're looking to create a program for people that go to conventional gyms. That's your next
or
business.
Or
at home.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's great.
Just to take away like.
Yeah. More barriers to entry.
Exactly. And also it's just the time component, the like driving left and right. I mean, if you're in New York and you have to drive somewhere after your work, like
it's tough.
It's hard, yeah.
And then how about, so what do you think about with the CrossFit Games season now that things have all shifted up? How is that going to change for you this year and next year? Like, where's your mindset at with that now that the CrossFit Games have kind of shifted and they have these sanctioned events?
I think I really believe that like things happen in life to push you in the right direction.
Yep.
So because there's so much unknown in CrossFit, it's really pushing me to like work harder on my business.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna just sit here and be like, oh, poor me, I like don't know what to do. It's like, all right, because I want to feel like I'm always moving forward.
Right.
So that when all those announcements happen, I mean, we still don't really know what's happening
Right.
right now, but I'm not going to wait.
Right.
So now I'm like doubling on my business. I'm still doing CrossFit, just not as much. I mean, people at home need to understand we're like do 8 workouts a day. So I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
My body is loving me for it. But yeah.
So you're recovering. You will be maybe competing in some of these sanctioned events to try and qualify, and then potentially Olympics is on your horizon. Is that what some of you're kind of setting your sight for? 2020.
We'll see how that goes. But I want to give myself a shot.
I love that.
I think one of the thing I'm the most scared of it. Not one of the thing. I think the thing I'm the most scared of in life is sitting back when I'm old and being, I could have or should have.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
Right.
Like this idea of like just not doing enough is very scary to me.
Yeah, me too. I think about that a lot is, am I reaching my potential and everything I'm trying to do? Wow.
Am I helping the right people? Am I like always being kind enough? Am I growing fast enough? Like always. And also something I'm really scared of is stop growing. Like I feel like you see it in like sometimes older people and you're like, wow, your mindset is still like in the 1960.
Right.
And like people are not like that anymore. But that really scares me because at a point they just decided that, all right, I'm comfortable here.
Right.
This is who I am. I'm not gonna change. And that to me, that like really scares me. I want to keep growing as a person until I die.
I love it. Well, Camille, I know you got some competing to do. I want to thank you for coming and meeting us here in this beautiful booth. Where can people find you if they want to know more about Camille Leblanc-Bazinet and what you have going on? What's the easiest place?
I mean, if you want to see a picture of my butt, come on Instagram.
And from this conversation, I hope people pick up, you're not just a picture of a butt. You have a lot of going on up here, and you're very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's funny because, I mean, I think hopefully people are going to like this, but I don't think, and the same thing with you, when you do normal interview, like, you'd never have an opportunity to, like, really be you.
Right.
Because it's always the same question. And so I really appreciate that. I don't think people know me.
No.
I think they know me, but I don't think.
No, there's a lot of layers to you, and you're true to who you are, and I think it's really impressive, and I hope people can pick up on that.
Yeah. So Camille Baz Instagram. I just launched a book called Jumpstart to Health, which is a 30-day nutrition mindset workout at home. Everything is body weight. So if you're wondering if you should start training or not, the answer is yes. Buy my book. It's going to be wonderful.
It's an ebook?
Yes.
Okay, and they can find it on?
They can find it on my Instagram. Go in the link at the top. It's called Jumpstart to Health. Also have CLB Nation program that is for more athlete who wants to reach their full potential. So people are, want to learn all the CrossFit skill and feel like they're an athlete, which is great. And Pump Down Express, which is people who want to feel the pump.
Just pump, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Get a little bit more defined in their muscle. And gosh, what else? Let me see.
We could probably find you on YouTube, find you on all these different channels, Facebook.
We're starting a YouTube vlog now, so
that'll be interesting.
Oh my God, yeah. I think we were gonna finally see the dynamic between me and Dave, which I think is I don't know. You can tell me. I think we have quite a weird dynamic.
Oh, the dynamic between you and Dave is incredible. And so, guys, I hope when they launch their vlog, you guys have to watch it because who Camille is and who Dave is true to their core. There's no acting, and you'll see it in the vlog.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, I think I can speak for everybody listening that we look forward to you and your Olympic hopefuls. I hope you get into crushing whatever you want to crush in the business world. And thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow. What a great episode with Camille. I'm so grateful to have her on the show. I hope you guys liked it as well. If you could please do me a favor. If you liked it, share, rate, review, and let your friends know how it went. I hope all of you guys have an awesome day, and thank you again for listening to the AMRAP Mentality podcast.